and stability. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. India's Supreme Court has stated that it will hear a plea on the 10th of November from the father of Air India pilot Sumit Sabharwal seeking an independent probe into the June crash in the Indian city of Ahmedabad that had claimed 275 lives. The bench of Justices Suryakant and Joy Malya Bagchi have noted that the preliminary report does not suggest any blame on the pilot. Senior advocate representing the petitioner has argued that the current AAIB investigation lacks independence. The court issued notice to the union government and has observed that the case will be heard along with a related matter. Supreme Court's Justice Kant has criticized foreign media reports stating that no one in India believes that it was the pilot's fault. Joining us on the broadcast is Ms. Vandana Singh, aviation expert from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Of course, this tragedy had taken place all the way back in June. 275 innocent people had lost their lives aboard the Air India 171 when it crashed in Ahmedabad. There was an interim report that was published by the AAIB in between that had pointed towards the end, towards a conversation that had taken place between the pilots. This was, of course, then talked about a lot in foreign media. The report instead also pointed out, on the other hand, a key concern that the FAA had raised in the United States of America with regards to the plane itself. Somehow media coverage regarding that has not been quite heavy. That's been brushed under the rug. Now, of course, Justice Suryakant of the Supreme Court has criticized these reports. At the same time, there's a lot of concern that the father of Air India pilot Sumit Sabharwal has regarding the light in which these media houses have reported, attempting to pin blame on the pilot itself. We're awaiting the final report. What could you explain to our viewers, considering your extensive experience in the aviation industry?
Thank you, Pia, for having me on your show. And a very good afternoon and greetings from my side to everybody viewing it. First and foremost, it's very good that this statement has come out from the Supreme Court of India now. And of course, as we await the hearing on 10th of November, it is clearly pointed out that the initial preliminary report was very sketchy, was leading to more questions than really answers, and irresponsible of many media houses, especially the international ones like the Wall Street Journal, to come out with statements talking about the pilot's psyche and pilot irregularities, whereas the report is not absolutely, clear at all, very, very sketchy, and the fact that the Supreme Court acknowledged that in no way can any finger point out to the dead pilot or the dead pilots, and it is inappropriate. Of course, the asking from the petitioner's side is for a judicial probe, a court-monitored judicial inquiry, which is absolutely independent, which has the subject experts, as is under the Rule 12 of the Accidents and Investigations Act, that can be seen by the cow, that it needs subject experts over there, and therefore the request for an independent judicial inquiry. So all of this, Pia, has been heard by the court, and the court acknowledges that in no way and at no stage can this be pointing to Sumit Sabharwal and that his father, the 91-year-old father, who has been totally shattered and who has come forward with this petition, has been told that there is no blame going towards the pilot's side. So there is a little sigh of relief. We, of course, wait the complete hearing on the 10th of November, because there are two more petitions that have been filed. Having said that, it has been very irresponsible, especially of the international media, and as you rightfully said, that, you're just talking of the pilots, you're not talking of any other stakeholders, you're not talking of the OEM, the Boeing itself, or, any of the other players such as Honeywell or
Yes.
GE or the other stakeholders and the third-party providers. So, all in all, as of today, the verdict from the Supreme Court, or the statement from the Supreme Court rather, is a sigh of relief, clearly stating that we are looking into the fact if there can be a judicial inquiry over here where an independent Supreme Court judge, retired or serving, can be sitting and be heading a panel with subject experts to come up with the final, findings of the report. It has been 6 months, as we all know, and we expect the report to come out in next 2 to 3 months, which should be a final report. Over to you, Pia.
Indeed, as you pointed out, the AAIB report did in fact paraphrase a critical exchange that had taken place between the captain and the first officer. One of the pilots did not specify which pilot. What's interesting is the AAIB report did not specify which pilot asked what, and foreign media has been making these assumptions. One of the pilots asked why the other had cut off the fuel supply to the engine, and the response was by the other that he had not done so. Interestingly, this situation where the fuel supply switches went from run to cut off, this has been witnessed once before as well. A similar such failure had occurred on a Boeing 787 Dreamliner involving an All Nippon Airways flight in Japan, where the fuel switch had transitioned on its own without any pilot input while the aircraft was on the final approach. It was a software issue that had caused the aircraft to mistakenly interpret that it was on the ground, prompting the TMCA system to shut off fuel to the engines. This, of course, has also not been picked up by foreign media. Do you think the courts will take this into consideration?
Absolutely, Pia. It has to be taken into consideration. 260 lives have been lost and more on the ground. And as you rightfully mentioned, this incident happened in 2023 with All Nippon. And we all know that when the aircraft was approaching to land, that the fuel switch is cut off, which means that the FedEx, or the brain of the machine of the aircraft, took it as the wheels are on ground and that the aircraft is on ground, and switched off the engines in layman language. But essentially, it is malfunction. It is malfunction, software glitch, electrical failure leading to all of it. It's not that. There's just another incident as well recently of a Birmingham flight that happened 2 months or 1 month back. Similar issues happened. So basically, nobody is talking about really asking Boeing as to what exactly is going on and what needs to be done. Airlines definitely are doing their own mandatory checks because they are all scared. Nobody wants a second crash to happen, as it happened with the B737 series, where it took the second crash of the Ethiopian Airlines to realize that the first one which happened, which was the Lion Air crash, again, which involved an Indian pilot, was not a pilot error, but it was definitely to do with the MCAS system on the Boeing 737 equipment, which Boeing had to then ground the entire fleet. Now you have these aircraft, 787s, 777s, all flying over the world. And imagine if such a catastrophe happens again. Therefore, it is paramount to take all these factors into account. And I'm sure the court is going to take everything into account and come up with, a finding. The Aircraft Incident Bureau, which is sitting, is preparing its report, and everything has to be taken into consideration because nobody wants this accident to be repeated again. And here, of course, people want a closure, rightfully so.
Absolutely.
Over to you, Priya.
One final question. As I mentioned earlier, it was a paraphrased version of the recording that was included in the concluding part of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau's report. Do you then think that the AAIB should release the entire transcript of the cockpit voice recorder in the final report that they are readying at the moment?
Absolutely, Pia. We have been asking it from day one. I representing FAII, the also FIP, the Federation of Pilots. Everybody has been asking that we need to hear the full transcript of the voice recorder, of the CVR, of everything, and let it all come in the front, and the whole transcript has to be shared. It cannot be that you're sharing bits and pieces and making nothing out of it, or making something out of it which is absolutely absurd. How can it go in that direction? Everything has to come out in the open, and that is why the request for a full judicial inquiry into this accident. I think it's a very valid request. It's a very valid point from each and every individual, and even the families of all who have perished and more, asking, is it safe to fly? Do we need to know what happened to this equipment?
Absolutely.
What happened? And this will the cockpit voice recorder is going to give the entire the join the dots and come out with the exactly how it happened and why it happened. Over to you.
All right, ma'am. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, of course, sharing your perspective with us and our viewers. Shifting focus to news coming in from Europe, we are now learning that French President Emmanuel Macron has outlined his priorities ahead of COP30 in Brazil, focusing on restoring forests and oceans, increasing climate funding and expanding the number of contributing countries. France will contribute about 500 million euros to Brazil's Tropical Forests Forever facility. He's also emphasized phasing out coal, the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, with France closing its last 2 coal plants by 2027. Macron has called for policies to protect vulnerable countries such as small island states from climate disasters. Adding on, he's warned against climate disinformation, which threatens democracies and the Paris Agreement as well, and has urged for strong support for science in the fight against climate change. Listen in to what he said.
La première ici à Belém est de démultiplier notre énergie à combattre le changement climatique. Au-delà de l'obligation juridique soulignée sans équivoque par la Cour internationale de justice en juillet, c'est une nécessité morale envers les plus vulnérables et les générations futures. La deuxième priorité pour cette COP, c'est de protéger, de restaurer nos 2 grands puits de carbone naturels, nos forêts et notre océan. La France milite depuis des années pour les solutions fondées sur la nature qui permettent de créer un pacte pour le climat, les sols, la biodiversité et, in fine, la sécurité humaine. Troisièmement, nous le savons, pour atteindre nos objectifs, il faudra de nouveaux financements. Regardons là aussi la réalité en face. L'effort public ne peut pas reposer sur un petit nombre de pays que l'on peut compter sur les doigts de la main. Tous ceux qui sont en position de le faire doivent assumer leurs responsabilités à cet égard. Et la base des contributeurs publics doit être élargie à tous les pays.
There, of course, we've heard what a French president had to say. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Desmond Majikudunmi, political and environmental activist, joining us from Lagos in Nigeria. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Very crucial updates ahead of the COP30 in Brazil. We've been talking about this for quite a while. There are high expectations that people have, but one very crucial part of Emmanuel Macron's announcement is that France will be closing its last 2 coal plants by 2027. How significant a step is this, and what sort of example does it then set for other countries?
It is a fantastic example, typically of the French. Throughout the last couple of centuries, they've been setting some pretty good examples, and this one is particularly good because coal is actually what started the whole process of the pollution of the atmosphere. It was the first fossil fuel that they used in the Industrial Revolution, and it has been very effective in providing a lot of energy quite cheaply. But it is far too poisonous, it's far too deadly, far too harmful for the atmosphere. And several other European countries have been holding back. They've been holding back on stopping the use of coal, which is just totally unacceptable. So we're very, very happy with Macron for making this pronouncement. And I'm sure they'll do it, and we're going to hold them to it. And other countries of the world need to follow suit. It is not possible to justify the damage that is being caused by burning these fossil fuels, especially coal. You know, as the young Ugandan activist said, you know, what good is money on a dead planet? And if we continue this way, we're destroying the capability of this planet to support our life. So yes, all kudos to Prime Minister Macron. C'est très bien comme ça.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us. We're tracking some other very crucial updates regarding the important meeting that's going to be